The federal government is urgently asking countries to treat humanitarian crisis in the northeast and collaborate to bring stability to the Lake Chad Basin. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, appealed that the issues should not be treated with levity, while also acknowledging that the insurgency, which has taken the lives of many, including aid workers, has worsened the economic conditions in the northeast over the last decade. Our correspondent, Gloria Omizuke, has this report.
A gathering of 4 countries. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, welcomes heads of government from the Lake Chad Basin region, as well as representatives from the United Nations. Protection of the vulnerable through a regional response plan is at the forefront of the 2nd Regional Protection Dialogue of the Lake Chad Basin in the nation's capital.
This year, the aim is to provide aid to 6.2 million people in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states, with an appeal for $848 million.
Partners believe that amidst heightened insecurity, the Lake Chad Basin continues to face protection crisis.
As insecurity deepens, we will need to work even harder across federal and state government and in our partnerships, including with the Armed Forces of Nigeria and the humanitarian community, to consider new and creative ways to uphold our commitment to provide that support.
Statistics from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees reveal that 7.1 million people are currently in need of humanitarian assistance in 3 states in the northeast, 2.5 million people displaced, 1.9 million internally displaced persons within Nigeria in the northeast, 500,000 internally displaced in Cameroon, and 230,000 refugees in the 3 neighboring countries.
Containing the 2019...
The Minister of Budget and National Planning launched a 3-year strategy for human response in the northeast.
The plan envisages that more and more resources will be deployed to increase investments in infrastructure and other facilities, so as to also address the other development challenges of the northeast.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, tells countries to collaborate and address the real issues.
Perhaps the most important message of our gathering today is that the humanitarian and protection challenges presented by the crisis in the Lake Chad remain urgent and require our active collaboration to bring stability and succor to the region.
The Humanitarian Regional Response Plan is one the United Nations is hoping that governments across would respect at all times to guarantee protection for the vulnerable in troubled states across the region. Gloria Omizuke, Channels Television News.
We now go live to our Abuja studios, where the Assistant High Commissioner for Protection at the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Volker Turk, joins us to look at the latest efforts to give displaced persons in the northeast region a new lease of life. You're welcome to the news at 10, Mr. Turker.
Good evening.
The UNHCR just released a report saying over 7 million people in 3 states in the northeast are in need of humanitarian assistance. Can you tell us what method the agency adopted in arriving at that figure?
So we work with local partners, we work with the local civil authorities, we also work with the federal authorities in order, and of course with the people themselves, first and foremost, to sit down with them, to understand what their needs are, and to identify what it is that they need the most. So behind the statistics, let's not forget, we have individual human beings, brothers and sisters in the Northeast, who require our support, our solidarity, and our action. And that's what these plans that the UN has put forward today, together with the government of Nigeria, is trying to achieve in conjunction with all the governments in the region.
Okay, the Vice President is asking countries in the Lake Chad region to come together to solve the challenges being faced by displaced persons. How well do you think this can work?
it is incredibly heartening that today we had all 4 governments from the Lake Chad region coming together in Abuja to make very strong commitments to protecting people, the civilians who always bear the brunt of the insecurity, who are displaced as a result of that, and who have lost their livelihoods. And we just want to work with all governments, with the Nigerian government first and foremost, but also with the governments of Cameroon, with Chad, with Niger, in order to find some assistance and protection for people who are affected by the conflict. Let's not forget there are also brothers and sisters outside who have fled into Cameroon, into Niger, and into Chad. And we need to work together with these countries to find a solution. And that's what the strong message today was coming out of this regional meeting that focused on the protection of people, of women and children, and of families that are separated because of insecurity and because of violence.
By working together, we've seen some effort by the federal government and private sector towards addressing the situation in the region. But it does appear a lot more still needs to be done. So what's top on that list? It's absolutely clear that basic services, access to education, access to health, to sanitation, to basic livelihoods is crucial, because people who are displaced as a result of the situation, like all of us, want to get on with their lives. If their lives are put on hold, they become the weakest link within a society, and we are as strong as our weakest link is. So this is really a call for the Nigerian society as a whole, for the private sector to come forward and to invest massively in what would otherwise be very much a marginalized society and part of a country. So we hope very much that this goes beyond what the United Nations can do together with governments, but involves the whole society to make our brothers and sisters up in the Northeast a priority for investment, for stability, and for peace, and for confidence, that they feel part of all of us, both in Nigeria, but also as part of the globe, of what we're all trying to achieve, acting in solidarity with them. Many thanks, Mr. Thurk. It was a pleasure having you on the News at 10.
Thank you.
Ahead of the 2019 general elections, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Babagana Mungunu, is pledging the commitment of the federal government to create a suitable environment for a peaceful process. Mr. Mungunu told a gathering at the Nigerian Governors Forum in Abuja that the government is privy to plans by some elements to wreak havoc that could mar the conduct of the polls. He, however, had that the government is doing all it can to make the electorate safe before, during, and after the elections.
One after the other, governors under the platform of the Nigerian Governors Forum arrive in Abuja for an emergency meeting. The issues of election security is the focus of the meeting, as the National Security Advisor informs the governors of plans by some persons to disrupt the general elections.
Reports reaching me have revealed that some individuals are uncertain of their fate in the elections and are hence plotting to precipitate widespread violence aimed at scuttling the conduct of the polls. Their strategy is to cause crisis that could snowball into endless crisis for the government and the citizenry of this country. There are indications that these unscrupulous elements are already mobilizing merchants of violence, including armed bandits and terrorists, to orchestrate violence during the elections in several states of the Federation.
With the agenda defined, the meeting continues behind closed doors, and afterwards, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum reads the communique of the meeting.
We are committed to collaborate with all security agencies to ensure that the forthcoming election are free, fair, and conducted in an environment conducive for the peaceful election. We are, however, concerned about the proliferation of armed and ammunition and the spread of kidnapping across the country.
As Nigerians anticipate the openings of polls on the 16th of February 2019, issues of security will continue to be a major subject of discussions. But the prayers of many Nigerians will be that the elections will be peaceful.